Hi everyone, you are listening to She Leads with Carly, and not only that, but our 50th episode! This journey has been so incredibly fun, and I'm so excited to have you guys join me in each and every episode. And there's no better guest to mark our 50th episode than Julie Uhrman, the founder and president of Angel City, the first professional women's soccer team to represent Los Angeles in the National Women's Soccer League. So while Julie has always loved sports, her entrepreneurial expertise before Angel City actually lies in the gaming industry. She brings with her incredible insight about following your gut, learning by doing, and just the nature of startups as a whole. We also chat about the incredible group of badass women that she created that are behind Angel City, one of which is actually Julie Foudy, who was the very first episode of She Leads. So right after you're finished this one, head over to the beginning of this podcast and take a listen. Lastly, please, if you're enjoying these episodes, subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a review. Thank you so much, and here's our chat with Julie. Hello, Julie. Thank you so much for joining She Leads today. I'm so excited to just have you on the show, get to know you better, hear your story. So thank you for joining.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So, Julie, you are the founder and president of Angel City, which is the first official women's soccer team to represent Los Angeles for 2022 in the National Women's Soccer League. So really just you're bringing a whole new era of sports and entertainment, which we'll get to. And obviously, as someone who's played in California and Southern California for most of my life, you can imagine I'm so excited for just this new team and everything. But I think what people probably don't know, in the soccer world is that before Angel City, you were, founder and CEO of Ouya, a video gaming console and platform company, which, got you top 50 digital woman in 2015, among the 100 most creative people in business, 5 most powerful women in gaming. So, Julie, so many things to talk about. So, what I love to do is really take me back to graduating from Washington University, St. Louis. At this point, where did you imagine your career? Did you have this passion for gaming always, and you always saw yourself starting your own company? Did you have this idea that you'd eventually start your own soccer team? So tell me kind of how you navigated this career trajectory.
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, I always felt like I was an entrepreneur. I liked doing things myself and figuring it out. My stepfather was an entrepreneur, so okay. I think he ingrained a lot of that in myself and my twin sister growing up, where no one's going to hand you anything. You have to, figure it out yourself and do it. And so when I was at WashU, we bought the on-campus laundry and dry cleaning service and ran that for 3 years. We launched a storage company when there was a flood. That was awesome. Sort of ruined our end of school year and beginning of school year. So we just did that for 1 year. Wow. Because social life at some point has to take over. And then, I entered a business plan writing competition at WashU. And luckily with my sister and 2 friends, we won that as well. So I was always an entrepreneur. Having said that, I studied finance. I wanted to be an investment banker, which kind of fits with sort of the entrepreneurialism, which is finding business and helping them get to their next level. So whether that's an IPO or an investment or a private placement or debt financing, but it's coming into all these different businesses and learning about them and helping them achieve their goals, which was both sort of amazing and bittersweet, because once we finished the work with the business, like we'd move on to the next one. I was like, but wait, we're not done yet, right? Like we just got them to the place they needed to be, but I wasn't able to sort of help them go to the next level. Right. And so that was sort of in 1999 at the beginning of the first .com bubble. So I left banking and started my first company, which was a business to business company. Okay. Certainly one of those things where you think you know a lot and you don't, and you're sort of learning as you go. And, and it was a business to business, like international produce company. So I wasn't the expertise. I was more on the finance and the fundraising side in the deck and raising money, which is, I think where my forte is. Yeah. So no, like there's no possible way you could look at my 10 plus jobs since college and see how I would end up owning a soccer club, other to the extent that I'm a huge sport fan, passionate about sports and the values and the benefits it brings to you. Played basketball my entire life, including a couple of years at WashU in St. Louis. And then obviously desperately watching my kids play and trying to keep my mouth shut on the sidelines. Yeah. So, but as an entrepreneur and knowing like how to build businesses and how to build communities, and more importantly than anything, how to build teams, it's sort of not unfathomable that I ended up here. In fact, I'm really fortunate and lucky where I finally get to combine sort of my personal passion with a professional, goal, which is building something from scratch. And the idea of bringing a women's professional soccer team in Los Angeles is incredible. I mean, they're the most incredible players in the world, by far the best, as proven, the last World Cup in 2019. They're cultural icons. They transcended the sports, world. They have their own platforms and their own brands and their own businesses, and there are millions and millions of followers. And yet the league and women's soccer historically now in its 10th season, is still incredibly undervalued and still not known by a lot of people, and didn't have a team in California, let alone Los Angeles. And so, there's just this incredible opportunity to not only, combine my passion and my interests, but also take something that has such incredible value that's undervalued and make it valuable to not only my investors, but our fans and the community and the world at large.
Yes, exactly. And we're gonna get into the story, the founding story of Angel City. But first, so clearly you've always had this entrepreneurial itch. And did anyone say, like, Julie, you're crazy, like, stay in investment banking, that's secure there's money, everything, compared to, this risky idea of starting your own company? Do you have that, or was it always just, what, I'm going to do it regardless of what people say?
I mean, both. I mean, people always think it's crazy when you leave something stable. And when you're young, I mean, I was in my early 20s. So to think that I knew how to run a business at that point, certainly one as complex as that we were trying to build, and one that was really early in the life cycle in the internet. I mean, the whole concept of the internet today, but certainly the early value prop was that it would disintermediate businesses. It would make things faster, make things cheaper, make things more efficient. And today you take that for granted, right? Of course it does. But back in 1999, you sort of had to prove that the new way would be better than the old way. And the businesses that needed the most disintermediating were the businesses that that were bigger, that were more historical, that had more, points in the process that you could streamline. And so one could argue that those are actually the hardest people to convince because they've been doing it a certain way for so long versus kind of new businesses that never existed before, whether it was a search engine or even like bringing, shopping online. It's very different. So, I mean, obviously I had like incredibly supportive family, mom who believed that I could do it. And, I believed that I could do it. And so, was fortunate even with my first company, Terrago, to raise over 1.3 million in a startup with 3 people, 2 that like dropped out of MBA school to do it, and myself who dropped out of banking. But I always knew that, you'd learn like incredibly valuable skills. You continue to build your network and grow. So, worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, then you're just that more marketable. And for me, as I've done a lot of startups, what I've learned is you can only learn so much on your own. And the unfortunate reality is you learn from failure, not necessarily success. When you fail, you know exactly why, when you're totally honest with yourself. And when you have a success, you're not always sure why you were successful, or sometimes it's just pure luck. And so I sort of went into this cycle of, I'm going to do a startup, and then, if it's successful, great. And if and when it wasn't, then I would kind of go back to a traditional company, be able to learn in a sort of a safer environment, and get to learn from other people, and then take those learnings once I found something that I was passionate about or excited about, and then move back into the entrepreneurial world. So my career was very much like startup, traditional, usually in the entertainment space, which I would include gaming, media, entertainment, because that's what's exciting and interesting to me. And actually a little bit of sports early on as well.
That's incredible. I think that mentality and that mindset of, worst case, I fail, but I'm going to learn from that. And that's where I grow. And that's, what will translate to the next startup I found. So I think that's
it's hard. Like, let's not, it's hard, and it's also just hard to really look at why something didn't work and really be critical and honest about it, because there's so many emotions that go into it. And so sometimes it takes time. But, I'm so it's obviously hindsight, right? But I'm so fortunate to have some of those learning experiences or constructive opportunities for growth instead of failures, because it's just going to make it all better for Angel City. It makes it all better for what I'm doing today. Like I'm very thoughtful about the decisions I make because I have so much background and history to guide me in the decisions that I'm making. And I can rely on myself more than my gut. And I can rely on myself more than, experts to bring around me, because I've had a lot of, experience and purview into other businesses and other leaders. So I can model myself a little bit better now.
And I want to ask you, what does really evaluating your failures look like? Because, like people say you have to view it as growth and all this stuff. But as you said, it's challenging. It's not easy. And probably many people kind of just, they don't want to publicly fail, or they don't want to, reminisce and think about it. So what does it look like in your career and in your experience? How do you evaluate it?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at sort of the big decisions that had the unintended consequence, right? Where you think it would have been successful or not, and understanding why you made that decision and what caused you to make that decision, and then was the criteria for making that decision the right or wrong. So I'll give you sort of a prime example.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned that I was the CEO and founder of Ouya, which was an Android-based video game console that we launched back in 2013. We tried to go the traditional route and raise money from venture capital, and I ran into, we met over 40 VCs. They all said no. It was myself and my chairman at the time, my mentor, Roy Bahat, who was my boss at IGN Entertainment, and it's now runs Bloomberg Beta. But, the couple of challenges we ran into was, first of all, it was a hardware business, and Silicon Valley wasn't really super comfortable with hardware yet. It was earlier. Now it's easier, but still obviously incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's my dog.
Okay.
She'll stop in a second. And then, there was a lot of complexity in Ouya, right? Because we were building a hardware product, a software product, a marketplace, a developer ecosystem, an SDK to bring your content from a mobile device that was Android-based to a television. So there's different television specs. There's a controller versus a touchpad, and a storefront with billing, right? Because we weren't going to use the Android operating store. We were going to be the store. Android was the platform, but we were going to be the store. So there's a lot of complexity risk. And if I got past that hurdle, it was execution risk. And if I got past that hurdle, I got a lot of, well, Roy, you're really running this, right? Like, she's a first-time CEO, which at the time I took offense to. Now I totally get, because I know more.
Right.
And then there was also a lot of times that I was a woman, which was interesting.
Yeah.
So we took it to Kickstarter. And, basically with Kickstarter, the idea was, look, I need a lot of money. This is hardware. It's not software where, I don't need a lot of money to get to an MVP. And I wanted to prove the product market fit. I wanted to prove that, like, if it existed, people would come, and we would say that. It was sort of Field of Dreams. Like, if you come, we will build it.
Right.
And so it was so successful that the venture capitalists came back to the table and funded us. So we raised, over $15 million with Kleiner Perkins and Mayfield and others, but also retailers came to us. So due to the success of Ouya, and they could see that over 63,000 backers not only gave us money, unknowing if we were ever going to build the product or they were ever going to get it, but that there are 63,000 people that wanted this. We had Amazon and Target and Walmart and Best Buy and Game in the UK. They all reached out to us. And so this was a really big decision where, how are we going to distribute the product? And financially, from a modeling perspective, we assumed 80% of our sales would be online. We'd be selling it through our website and then Amazon, right? We weren't really going to do retail.
Yeah.
And at the time, I brought in like an exceptional person who knew retail really well, including gaming. And his advice was really, these people are never going to come back again. Like, you have to take advantage of this. This is huge. You're going to have huge trajectory of growth. You should do retail day one. And it was really against sort of what my gut was, which is, I don't know anything about retail. The product is still being we were literally building the product as we're trying to sell it.
Wow, yeah.
If there's issues with the product, that causes delays. But the advice of the expert was, like, you need to take advantage of this and do it. So we did. The upshot was 50% of our sales came through retail, specifically Target, because the price point was so low. But it brought a ton of problems. First of all, just having enough quantity for the retailers. Day one was important. We had some Wi-Fi issues that we had to fix. And so trying to work through that and getting the quantity right. You can't market in retail really unless you're across all of their stores nationally versus like doing a small rollout, which is what you would want. And so the financial commitment was so much heavier going into these stores. Also, and more importantly, the turnaround of the money was so much longer. So if I sold it on my own website, I got the money immediately.
Yeah.
If I sold it through Amazon, there are different programs, but I could get my money within like 30 days, 15 days, 2 days. And the reason that's so important is the faster the money comes back to me, the faster I can reinvest it into the business, into more units or whatnot.
Exactly.
With retail, I had to go through a 3PL that had a relationship. Anyway, long story short, it took like 100 to 110 days to get my money back. I'm a startup who is raising money to fund the business. Like, that's just untenable. It's just absolutely not possible. And it was one of the, when I look back at sort of the top 3 sort of worst decisions I made, like that was one of them. I don't know what would have happened if we went purely digital from a sales perspective. I do feel like a lot of the problems we encountered, we wouldn't have, which is not to say we wouldn't have encountered other ones. And so that's one of those examples when you're really new to something and you go by the party line, which is like, you have this challenge, right? Trust your gut, right? Or bring in people that are smarter than you and trust them, right? And so like, what do you do when your gut that you have no experience with, like you have no basis for a gut decision, is in complete contrast to an expert who's been doing this their entire career and arguably isn't wrong, but just there's, so many dependencies that no one really fully thought about. So that was one really interesting problem that took me a long time to learn from. And ultimately the advice I give now is just trust your gut. And the reason for that is not because I think you're going to be right. Like, I could have been wrong, but here's the thing. I'd rather be wrong blaming myself for making a bad decision than be wrong by blaming someone else who I gave the authority to make the decision. Like, I can't take accountability and ownership in the right way. And so I'd rather just make the decision to be wrong. And just be like, and I think as a founder and as an entrepreneur, like you want to be in that position, like succeed or fail, you want to be able to truly blame yourself. And when you give the like monster decisions to other people, you can't. And so that's certainly something that I'm bringing into, bringing into Angel City with me. And then, also, I think when we try to build new businesses, you're always looking for people that have done the job before, right? Like, who has absolutely done ticketing, who has absolutely done sports before. And that's not always right. Like, you want different voices at the table. In the same way you want to have a team that's representative of society, so you're going to have different voices from different backgrounds that are reflective of community that you're trying to serve. You also want different experiences. So sports is incredibly important to me, but so is entertainment, right? And so is gaming, and so is content building, right? And as you think about your fan base, like, they like sports, but they also like fashion, and they like entertainment, and they like music, and they care about social justice. So how do you build a team that can speak to an audience that has so many different interests? Anyways, those are some learnings.
No, that's amazing. Julie, I love that. The story you told about Ouya and you're trusting your gut versus an expert. Like, I feel like that's a real problem that people face, as founders, when they get people on board that they're going to help them. But at the end of the day, they feel in their gut, no, I don't think that's the right decision. So I love that. And I want to touch on a bit more what you said, being a woman in this industry, trying to get funding. But I think you gave a great segue to Angel City. So tell me a little bit more, inspiration behind founding this team. And also tell me the incredible team of badass women that you've collected together to form this incredible team that's going to come in 2 years. So tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, happy to. I mean, this is definitely the story of right place, right time. So Angel City is going to be a new professional women's team that's launching in Los Angeles in April of 2022. The idea and the drive really came from Natalie Portman, the actress and filmmaker and activist who is on the board of Time's Up, and met Kara Nortman, who is a partner here at Upfront Ventures, who's also on the board of Time's Up. Natalie was very involved in the pay equity discussions that were happening in the entertainment space. And got really involved with Time's Up and started to meet some of the U.S. Women's National Team through introductions by Rebecca Rue, who is the executive director of the U.S. Women's National Team, just to learn like what was going on and what were the challenges being faced. And, over a course of over a year, Natalie just sort of kept asking more questions and had, lunch with Alex Morgan and met with the team. And between her and Kara started to develop both like personal and professional relationships with these players, in addition to trying to understand sort of what the environment was around U.S. soccer and pay equity. And Natalie, on more than one occasion, always asked, like, how can I help? Like, what can I do to draw more attention to this, to build more awareness for this? How can I make a difference? And, the first tangible way that we all saw was when there was a friendlies match here in 2019, which was also the 20-year anniversary of the 99ers. Natalie brought a bunch of her friends to draw attention for the pay equity fight. And that was sort of the first thing. And then they did a pay equity symposium, her and Kara hosted with Time's Up. And after the women won the 2019 World Cup and Kara's on her flight home, she went and saw the games. Natalie's blowing up her phone saying, we need to bring a team to LA. Like, we have to do this. This is the time. This is the moment. And so, Kara, started having a couple of conversations. Kara and I have known each other for 20 plus years, went to competing high schools, played basketball against each other. We're both basketball players, although her daughters play soccer. And we have a good friend, Robin Ward, who mentors female founders here in LA, and who's amazing, and puts together this wild feminist women in tech basketball league, which happens over the summer, which, between you and I, it sounds way more impressive than it is. But it's a great opportunity for a lot of us to see each other that don't get to see each other that often, that are in tech and venture. And it was August 18th. like a little over a year ago. And, there's a lot more conversations going on about the World Cup than there was basketball being played. Everyone was still on a high because we're all athletes. So it was kind of amazing. And Kara asked me what I was up to. And she's like, look, Natalie and I have this, crazy idea to bring a women's professional team to LA. We both have day jobs. I was doing some advising and consulting and working on another startup. She's like, look, if you've got bandwidth, I know you're an entrepreneur and love sports, put together a business case, put together a financial model, see if this is even possible. And if it is, if it's something you'd even want to run. Yeah. She didn't have to finish that sentence before I said yes. Wow. So that was the 18th of August, a Monday. The following Sunday, the three of us, courtesy of Becca, were at LAFC for the LA El Trafico game, which is LAFC versus the Galaxy. So it was really my first experience with professional soccer. My first experience with supporters groups. It was the most amazing. I went to 2 other games. It was the most amazing. It was transformative. Wow. I've been to a lot of sporting events and have season tickets to USC Trojan games, and I experienced nothing like this. And if they were doing this for the men's team, it blew my mind how we could create this for the women's team that are arguably literally the best in the world. Yep. And LA being this incredible platform, this incredible soccer community. And so that just, started a, 3-month process of talking to everybody I could, owners and players and people in sports, putting together a business case and a financial model, and, realized that it was doable. Like, we're not talking about the billions of NFL or the hundreds of millions of esports, but it was actually a really doable proposition. There are no teams in California. And so we went to the league and said, look, here's a team of women. We believe there should be a team in LA. We feel confident that we can find a stadium. We feel confident that we can raise the money, but we want the rights to bring a team to Los Angeles. And it was a very different way to approach team ownership. It's not typically the way it's done. Typically, you have a group of people that have the money, that have the stadium or have the ability to build a stadium, and they go to the league and say, here we are. We have everything. Give us the rights. We went to them and said, look, we have a team. We're going to get everything else. Just trust us. And so they really liked our passion, enthusiasm, and the diligence and the work that we did. And they sort of took a leap of faith on us and said, okay, first you have the unofficial rights, go to work. Yeah. And then we started raising money. And to your point, brought this sort of incredible group of majority women investors on board who believed in what we were trying to do with Angel City, which always from day one was bigger than a game. Yeah. Angel City was always going to be bigger than a game. So it wasn't soccer, it was entertainment. It was a platform where mission and capital could coexist. And more importantly, it is a platform where we can build a global brand, where Angel City Football Club is just the first expression of that platform. But this platform that stands for equality from day one and impact from day one, both on the field and off the field, with our local community, with our players, with our fans, is going to stand for something greater. And that concept that, purpose and passion and progress and, again, capital can coexist was really exciting to people. And so we were incredibly fortunate through, Natalie's relationships and ours to bring in this incredible group of investors that included Eva Longoria, Jennifer Gardner, Uzo Abudo, Jessica Chastain, America Ferrara, Julie Foudy. And Julie Foudy was like, look, we've got to make this bigger. There are a dozen U.S. women's national team players that live in Southern California. Like, what would you think about them joining the investor group? Again, she didn't have to finish that sentence because, I know a lot about building businesses, but I also know what my blind spots are, and building a soccer team is certainly one of them. So in that case, surrounding myself with brilliant people who have their, pulse on the market is really important. And so Julie, we brought in Mia, and then we brought in, and again, like a dozen U.S. women's national team former players that live here in L.A. We brought in Abby and Glennon Doyle, and then some local sort of, business women, Sarah Harden, who runs Hello Sunshine, Leah Sturdy, who's at Google Ventures up in North. And then, not the least of which really is our controlling, owner, Alexis Ohanian. And so he was one of our earliest conversations in October. Yeah. He's Serena Williams' husband. He was the founder of Reddit and a partner at Initialize Capital, and he's moved on to start his own venture fund. And he not only believed in the mission of pay equity and leveling the playing field and creating a world which he wants his daughter to live in. So to the extent that she ever wanted to be a world-class professional soccer player, he promised his wife that, she would get paid to do it, and he was going to, play a role in that. But then also from a, professional venture investing standpoint, saw this like incredibly undervalued asset, this huge growth opportunity, likened it to esports, where he's an early investor, but with such greater upside because soccer is a global sport and these women are cultural icons. And,
Incredible.
you know, again, LA is this incredible platform with this incredibly rabid fan base of, you know, sports enthusiasts, but more importantly, soccer enthusiasts that haven't even been tapped for this. And so, you know, he's been absolutely incredible. And, you know, we have Serena Williams as well. And then his daughter, the youngest,
So
owner in sports, Olympia. And then really just to put together this incredible team that, because they believe in the mission and the purpose of Angel City, allows us this incredible platform to build awareness and engagement and excitement for this team and for this company in a way that I don't think has ever been done for another sports franchise. And I even hesitate to call us a sports franchise because we're not. We're a global brand.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I don't even know if you mentioned, but it's often different than the founding team behind other soccer teams, whether it's a female soccer team or a male team, whatever it is. You guys are all female. So I think coming to, the NWSL to get your rights, I think that was also another aspect that, these are strong females that are behind it. And, even if you don't have the stadium or the money yet, they're going to do it. So I love that. Okay, Julie B., we're going to go end off with fun questions. This has been so fun. So thank you for coming on to the show.
Yeah.
So first, what's a passion or hobby you have that's just completely unrelated to your work? So unrelated to sports
Sure.
and all of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as any mom will tell you, it's whatever the kids are into, right? So I have two kids, a daughter, Elle, who's 12, who's in the 6th grade, and my son, Charlie, who's 9, who's in 4th. So
cute.
obviously supporting their passions, which during COVID is, technology.
Yeah.
But my own, I love entertainment, which probably isn't surprising. I'm actually, my favorite is the theater. So I love musicals. So I'm forcing the kids to watch musicals with me.
Too. Oh.
And then certainly I'm addicted now to All or Nothing on Amazon. Just finished Manchester City and now watching Tottenham Hotspurs.
Ooh, that's great. I'm going to watch it.
And Ted Lasso on Apple TV, which is super funny if you guys haven't seen it.
Oh my God, amazing. The Manchester City All or Nothing, so good. I remember watching it, but I'm excited that Tottenham's one is out, so I'll watch that. And Hamilton, biggest fan of Hamilton, so I love it. Okay, last question is, what is a fun or weird talent you have, so a hidden talent that no one really knows about? And so I'm going to go first, okay?
Yeah.
So usually what I do is I throw blueberries, but I don't have blueberries today, so we're going to stick with gummy bears. All right, so throw them in my mouth and catch them. Let's see how this goes.
My daughter would say is hers.
There we go.
Nice. That's nice.
Thank you.
I find myself incredibly boring nowadays. I have this goal to start playing the piano with my daughter, but I'm like, God, when am I going to find another 30 minutes a day to do that and practice? I got nothing. This is the worst. I got nothing.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you have quite a bit.
The only thing I've mastered during COVID is burning myself every possible place. So if that's a talent, burning yourself when you cook, I have absolutely mastered that. It's awful.
All right.
I have zebra stripes now on my arms.
I will say my mom is pretty similar. Every time she takes something out of the oven, she burns herself. So, yep, I could see that. Okay, Julie, it's been so incredible. Thank you for coming on to She Leads and just sharing your story. I'm so excited for Angel City and just what you're building. So, thank you again. It's been great.
Hey, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Of course.